All right, and welcome back to episode 36 of Modern Prescription. My name is Dr. Deepak Dukar.
And I'm Dr. Jeff Toll.
And you excited, Jeff?
I'm very excited about this episode. We're talking about all the things we should be talking about right now.
Yes.
Traveling around the world.
Traveling around the world with Ask a Concierge, Sarah Dandashy. She's a travel expert. She is a hotelier, award-winning concierge. She's been doing this for like 20 years. She looks 20, so I don't understand that, but we'll figure that out today.
I don't get it either. She started it in the womb.
In the womb. That makes sense.
You know, she was telling people where they should be going.
Yes.
Directing traffic there.
Yes.
And then...
But it's inspirational episode.
Then when she came out of the womb, it was just immediately people were asking her
where to go.
Where to travel.
Where to travel, which is what we're asking now.
I need to know.
Yeah, post-vaccination, everyone's ready.
Yeah, a lot of, I think it's a really exciting time because, at least for my patient population, the 65 and olders, I went a whole year in a lot of cases without seeing them because they didn't want to come in to see the doctor because they were afraid of being in the building.
It's all virtual visits.
So in the last 2 months since the vaccination started, we're seeing everyone get their physical that they may have missed last year. And all of them are saying to me, is it safe to travel now that I'm vaccinated?
Yeah.
Which is
the answer is yes.
I think so. The answer is if you are vaccinated, you can safely be with other vaccinated people.
Yeah,
for sure.
No question.
If you are worrying about being on a flight with a whole lot of people, that's another story. Is there some small risk of getting it even though you're vaccinated? Maybe.
Right.
But certainly seeing other family members that are also vaccinated is very safe.
We're going to get into some travel tips today on what are the best airlines, safety protocols airlines are doing, and some of the bad things about flying on airlines and what are the reasons people can be there maskless.
Yeah. Mostly I just want to know where I should be going and when I can go.
Absolutely. Let's get into it. All right, we are back, episode 36 with the Ask a Concierge. This is your brand. You are the number one travel person in the world. And you're going to tell us everything about the world of traveling and life and concierge and everything. Sarah Dandashy?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, thank you for joining.
No, thanks for having me.
We have a lot of questions about where we should be going right now. I think we're all excited that the pandemic seems to be getting under better control and people are getting vaccinated. And I think we all want to know, whether we're visiting people coming to visit LA or people going around the world, where should we be going?
Oh my gosh. Okay, you want to dive into that? Where should we be going? Well, okay, so now I have to give my spiel here. Like ultimately, travel is just so personal. And it just all depends on how comfortable you are, where you are in the scheme of things, whether you're single, whether you're with a family, how you want to travel.
Right.
And so that being said, we are seeing trends. So, I mean, families more so opting to stay more domestically, doing a lot of road trips. Some are staying at homes. Some are staying in hotels, depending on, again, their comfort level and also like what they're looking to do. Right. Maybe whether it's a longer term stay, they want to stay in a home. And then you have other people that are like, hey, I just want to get out of the country. And then they're going to places like Mexico, in the Caribbean. Some of the, in the Caribbean, some countries have been changing their rules kind of like rapidly, but Mexico's been pretty consistent. So that's also been great. And then those that want to go a little bit further, you've got, people have been doing the Maldives or they go to Dubai. Dubai's been pretty open for quite some time.
And how does it work if someone wants to travel there? Do they have to get tested first? Do they get quarantined in some of these places?
So generally it all depends. Always, yes, you have to get tested and you have to have proof of a negative COVID test before you even board the flight. Right. Now, what's been interesting is that pretty much across the board is that you have to show your negative COVID test to the airline to even get on the flight. But generally on the other side, most haven't really been checking. Sometimes they'll check you in customs to be like, hey, can you show us your test, your negative result again?
Right.
Or in the case of the US, they don't ask at all.
The US doesn't ask anyone if they have
No, they're like, welcome back to the US. And if you have your phone out, they're like, can you please put your phone away? And you're like, wait, I was going to show you my negative test. They're like, I don't need to see that.
Right.
And it's like, oh, okay.
Why is that?
Why is that?
It's just more liability? They just don't want to even get into it?
No, I don't think it's liability.
It's a decision of countries to restrict tourism or travel. And so some countries, I think, that are really from the beginning wanted to have no COVID enter or less cases, they are requiring testing. And in some cases, in some countries, they make you quarantine even with a negative test, right?
Definitely.
Like New Zealand and some
exactly.
other places.
So some countries, like you definitely, you have to prove that. And then others, you can't go in if you're a tourist. So 2 months ago, I ended up going to Portugal. And right now, all of Europe, you can't go there unless you're going for business. And so I was brought in by a hotel. And so I had to prove, like I had to show my letter, certified letter from the hotel that I'm essential, I'm needed for them, and that I was traveling on in regards to that. And that was the only way to get in. So
right, is it still the case? So if someone wants to travel to Europe right now, that's from the US, it's not allowed. Right,
correct. That is still the case. So I am curious to see how much that'll open up. My guess is, I mean, they need the tourism dollars.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Because you're looking at countries like France and Italy where, as far as like their tourism industry, probably 75%-ish, give or take, is from the U.S., from U.S. travelers. Like they want it. That's another reason why you look at Mexico.
We eat a lot of pasta.
Yeah, a lot
we do.
of wine.
A lot of pasta. I was just going to say a lot of pasta, a lot of wine. Exactly. But you get that with.
Are you excited to go on a wine tour to Europe after this all ends?
That's like the first thing I'm going to have Sarah help me with.
Deal. Are you kidding me? No, there's
Take
so
me
many.
to France.
There's so many great places like
Are
France.
you a French
Italy.
wine guy, or what kind of wine?
I like France.
Of course.
I like the Burgundies. I like a little bit of the more complex flavors.
Got it.
California cabs are great, but sometimes they oversaturate your palate.
Got it.
The Bordeaux give you a little bit more of a semblance of.
A true
I
expert
wish
over
I
here.
had any idea what you were talking about.
You just painted a really pretty picture there.
What other things do people get you to do? Because obviously you worked for huge hotels, and now you also work for super high-end clients as well.
Yeah.
What are some of the weirdest things you've had to book or arrange?
Oh gosh, I knew you were going to ask me that. No, so it's interesting. Like over the years, there have been some interesting things. So I one time actually had a family from someplace in the Middle East. I'll just leave it at that. They came and they were here for the summer because Los Angeles is a very popular destination.
Absolutely.
And I say that, by the way, just saying that I am half Lebanese. I actually lived in Saudi Arabia as a kid. So like I get the culture. They love it. They come to me. They're like, oh, you're like the blonde goddess that gets us. And I'm like, yeah. Okay. So we had a family staying in town for the summer and they were like, we really want to get a puppy. And it's like, we ended up helping them get this puppy, very specific breed. They had it for like 3 weeks. And the next thing you know, they were like, okay, well, we have to go home with the puppy. And you can't just travel with it. Like the dog has to have shots and like all sorts of,
Right.
I mean, it's a dog, you know? And so we ended up jumping through all the hoops to get all like the vaccinations or whatever the dog needed. But it was 2 weeks too young to make that trip. Or I think to get maybe like the final shot before it could make the trip. And then they were like, do we have somebody, like, do we extend this? And then they're like, you know what? So-and-so at the hotel really seems to have an affinity for the puppy. She can just have him. And we're like, okay. So we're done with the puppy.
nice.
Donating puppies.
We're donating puppies.
I have a
Exactly.
ton of patients in the summertime for the Middle East.
Yeah,
like
of
we have a
course.
huge influx of patients. I'm sure you do too.
Yeah.
And so the Middle East, they love coming here and spending
course.
time because the weather's so nice here.
I think it's very
basically
similar.
after Ramadan is usually when they come over. And one story we had of this one patient, he came with like his whole family, his whole entourage, about 30 people, and they were staying at the Beverly Hills Four Seasons, Beverly Wilshire.
The Beverly Wilshire.
And so when they were there, they had about 15 cars that they
sounds
had
about
for the
right.
summer. And when they left the cars.
Yeah.
And they were just stuck in the parking lot, and then the hotel had to figure out what to do with them. And it was a very complex situation.
Wow.
sounds about right. I mean, at that point, it all depends on who it is, but then they sometimes even like work out a deal that they're like, hey, we'll hold on to the car, but like we have to, like there's a parking fee for it. So and then they
Right.
charge them whatever it is to like park their nice cars there.
I wish I had 12 extra cars to just leave somewhere.
I know.
Well,
That sounds
you
like a
know,
level of
by the-
It
wealth.
also sounds good to travel to these places where, like Maldives, like I've heard of it. I've seen a photo and I have no idea on a map like where it is. And I
Right.
bet there's a lot of those kinds of places right now that people
Oh,
are- that
Well, I mean, and that's the whole thing is that that's what the trend is. Is like
Right.
people want beaches, they want outdoors.
Well,
and
they want to be not in like a hotel where there's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so like I've had a lot of patients ask me all the time, where is safe to travel? How is it safest to travel? Where is safest to travel? And I think we were talking a little bit off air before, but I think we should get into too, is that a lot of people, the Airbnb thing is cool. The idea that you can have a house with just your family where there's no hotel staff, there's no one else, but it's hard to have a trust to know that it's a clean environment or sterilized
Yeah.
before the previous people are
Yeah.
there. So that kind of scares people away. And so do you want to walk us through the new trend that's coming?
Totally. So, really kind of the two biggest trends that we're seeing that people are comfortable with. Okay, let's take it a step back. So understanding that in general this past year, most people couldn't travel, like everybody. So now as we're having maybe more grandparents are getting vaccinated, or maybe they're feeling more comfortable and like they haven't had a chance to see maybe their family. So we're seeing more families travel together. So you're having this quote unquote multi-generational travel trend where you've got everybody from grandparents to grandkids because they can finally get together. So understanding that, you're not necessarily going to book one room for like you and your significant other. It's like you might need to be booking 3, 4, 5 rooms. So that's why we're finding that a lot of people are opting for maybe whole, and they call them whole home rentals, so that you're not just renting a couch like in some guy's place, like it's an actual home. And then also all-inclusive travel. So where they can just know that they've paid this flat rate and everybody's covered and like you're good to go. So that being said, I think this was really cool is that you can look at these big giants in the industry like the Marriotts, for example. And just in the middle of last year, Marriott started their new thing called Homes and Villas by Marriott International. So basically they're getting into the home rental space.
They're buying and acquiring these homes.
So they're working with owners of these homes. So they don't actually own them, but they're working with owners of these homes. And then they have these property managers that come in. And then so basically the same cleanliness standards that you would get at a Marriott, from these bigger brands, that you've got when you stay at one of these homes.
Versus Airbnb.
That's true of the hotel. They don't actually own their most of the hotels either, right?
Yeah,
so like a Four Seasons manages the hotel. They don't actually own the property necessarily.
Exactly.
So it would be the same thing of a house, basically.
Yes, totally. And then the other side of things is then also the all-inclusive, as well too, because it's, everybody's been affected in different ways, but those that are maybe being a little bit more like price conscious, or they just want to know that they're paying a flat rate and they're not going to be like, oh, how many cocktails did I have by the pool? They just want to do that all inclusive. So it's been cool to see how these trends have been happening just kind of across the board, but people are definitely like, they're ready to go.
I'm ready. Where are we going? Should we plan a trip while we're sitting here?
A modern prescription flight test.
Well, it's been interesting because I've had, obviously a lot of my patients now getting vaccinated, especially the 65 and olders. And now, it's at least in California, obviously it's different in each state, but in California now, over 18 to 64 with any either pre-existing conditions that are meaningful or being an essential worker in certain industries. So a lot of people in general, which is a good thing, a lot of people are getting vaccinated and asking about, so if my kids aren't vaccinated yet, can we travel here or there, or, thinking about what people can finally do. And even just going out to dinner, people are.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing.
The
way I always say, what I always explain to people is it's all about being a responsible traveler. So it's like being mindful of, we all know, we've all been through this together now for a year. We know what we should be doing to keep ourselves relatively safe, wearing a mask, washing your hands, etc. I don't need to tell you guys, but keeping that in mind when they end up traveling. That I always just say, it's like, just because you travel to a destination, it's not necessarily a free pass. Like, it doesn't mean that COVID doesn't exist there. Like, you still have to be mindful of it and know that whatever behaviors you do or whatever you end up doing, you have to just accept the risks with that. Right, so, and then be also mindful. The other side is being mindful of like the destination that you're going to, the people that live there. Yes, they're happy for the tourism dollars, but there's also just being mindful that you're going into a different destination and, you want to kind of be part of the solution, I would say, while still being able to like stretch your legs.
Did you see a huge boom in private flights? Do your clients,
definitely.
Everyone's trying to book
Everything's
private planes?
private. Like that's the big thing is that people that are, from private flights to private villas to private, you name it, private tours, if they can get out and do that. Everybody wants private. And that's the whole thing is it's like, if you can afford it, absolutely. And why not? And it just gives that peace of mind.
I even wonder if you're like a family, like you said, if there's grandparents, parents, grandkids, so if it would be 3 or 4 rooms in a hotel for 10 days, it may be actually cheaper to rent a really nice house. Or
Right.
100%. Like by the time, depending on where you are,
Right.
I mean, if you do the math, like you can get like,
you could rent it for a month probably. For
and the rooms like
less than a week at 3 hotel rooms. Or
Totally. So, and it just really depends on like what you're looking for. Right. And then with that extra that you would be saving, then you could be like, oh, cool. Maybe we can have like a chef come in and do a private dinner.
Yeah.
Like you can get creative with things. So I get it.
That
just
sounds
like,
good.
Yeah. Right.
Maybe we should do that.
What do you think about planes and people eating and drinking on planes? Have you guys been on a flight recently?
Oh, okay. Wait, I was actually have you guys been on a flight?
I have. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I think it's so weird because you're allowed to take your mask off if you're eating and drinking.
Of
and so what I
course.
noticed was that there's like 60% of the plane with no mask on, just taking their leisure time. People ordering coffees and just sipping on it for 45 minutes and technically don't have to wear masks. So you end up in this, vessel that has 60 to 80% people without mask at some point in the flight.
Right.
Yeah. So that's interesting. I agree with you. I've been on multiple flights. So I've done long haul flights like to Europe. I've also done shorter flights. I mean, I completely get it. It's kind of something. It's like, how do they enforce that? Because I mean, it's like they obviously want people to wear their masks as much as they can, but it's like, what do you take it off and on while you're drinking? Like, you're itching over there, Jeff. What do you want to say?
Well, I think in general that we've gotten to the point in the pandemic, at least now that, elderly people are vaccinated, the high-risk people now are, in most states at least, have access to the vaccine. So if people now are traveling, they should understand that they may be accepting some risk of,
Yeah, your next door neighbor might be maskless for most of the
or
flight.
whatever.
Yeah.
And if you are high risk, you shouldn't maybe be on the flight. But if you're not, or you're already vaccinated or whatever, then you should feel pretty comfortable.
Yeah, and it's also, I think, a comfort level, and then you make those choices as far as like how you want to fly. Like, for example, Delta is still very vocal about they're still blocking their middle seats. So, if you want to go that...
Are they still doing that?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
They are.
I feel like I flew Delta and they did not see that.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. I feel like these airlines say this, but they're not actually doing it. And this is maybe,
Really?
I don't want to say any facts. I don't know for sure.
No.
But I've been on multiple flights now, and I have not seen, they've been packed.
Oh, so American and United, they've been packed for sure.
Packed.
And now Southwest too.
Yeah, my prediction is after spring break, there will be a uptick in cases from people traveling during the holidays and then getting on planes together.
Right.
But hopefully we will not see any rise in hospitalizations or deaths, again, because the hope is the vaccine. So what we'll see, and that would be really prognostically good about just almost even fully opening, is we see a huge rise in cases. None of these people end up in the hospital. So therefore, if no one's ending up in the hospital, then do we actually need to keep things shut?
Right.
And so that may be like a good test case.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you think the current traveling industry has increased prices to help offset some things?
Okay, so we're still at this weird time. So a lot of it's destination specific. That's a great question. To give just I guess all the listeners a bit of a backstory, I'm sure you're pretty aware, but I mean, imagine you've got the whole industry and then it literally went from, let's just say operating at 100% capacity down to 5%.
Right.
That's insane. And then having to lay off everybody. So now it's this weird tug of war with this the supply and demand. So, and a lot of it is based off of how comfortable people are feeling. So we are seeing more people are booking in the future for the summer. So you will see that summer prices might be a little bit high, but it's also the hotels and even the airlines have to get up to speed with what they're able to offer. So we are going to see this tug of war where it's book now, come in the next 2 weeks and it might be super cheap, but planning ahead, it might be, they're wait, those are old prices.
Right.
So you are seeing a little bit of that. I mean, my biggest thing that I've always said is I think the biggest or the best trend to come out of 2020 for consumers of travelers is that flexible cancellation policies pretty much across the board. So
is that almost everyone you're seeing doing that?
Almost everyone. Obviously, you want to check before you book, et cetera. But airlines, hotels, all of that. So if you have the ability and you can book for a future trip, book.
Yeah.
Like worst comes to worst, you cancel it.
Right.
Worst comes to worst, you change it. But then at least you have something on the books because, the whole other side of this is also the idea of like at least having something to look forward to because the whole mental
So
health
important.
component.
I was just going to dive into that. Yeah,
I
so
totally.
totally agree.
It changes your life when you have something to look forward to versus you don't have it. Like when you don't have a trip on the books, you're totally stagnant in your mindmindset sometimes versus when you're looking forward to it.
So what's on the books?
I don't know. For me, there's probably no trips for a little while, but hopefully after smooth delivery and after some time. Yeah. But traveling right now would be a dream.
I have a Yosemite trip back to Yosemite booked.
Ooh. And it gives you mental motivation every day.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Something to look
I
forward
actually
to.
have 2 trips. I have a Sequoia. I have a lot of outdoorsy trips planned right now.
And that's
Sequoia
great. And
trip
that's also the other thing is like outdoors or beaches. Like,
Yeah.
I was in Mexico just like 3 weeks ago, and I have to say, like, it was outdoors, and I felt totally fine, totally safe. I mean, obviously, like, I was doing my thing.
Where'd you go? What's your recommendation?
Where'd I go? Okay, so I've been to Mexico twice now. So the first time during COVID, yes. So and the first time I went to Cabo, amazing,
Love Cabo.
Incredible time. And that's, by the way, that's like a huge destination, especially for those of us in Southern California.
What are some of your favorite hotels in Cabo?
I knew you were going to ask me that. The Solaz Hotel is really great. It's beautiful. You can't take like a bad picture there. It's amazing. There's LeBlanc as well too. And then those that are looking for the whole all-inclusive experience, I stayed at Pueblo Bonito, and that was like a really cute place. They have a couple of different locations, so you can either go for more of like the authentic Mexican feel. You can do one that's a little bit more younger, geared towards being younger, but they've all been great with as far as our safety protocols. Like sometimes you have to like go in through like a misting machine and you're like, what are you misting me with?
With chemicals.
I love Cabo personally. Big Cabo fan.
Cabo's
great
great
food,
place.
great beach,
Totally.
weather's great.
And what's
Such
so
a
great.
close flight.
Yeah, it's such a close flight. So
Yeah.
that's why for those of us in Southern California, it's such a perfect destination. And to be honest, like
Love tacos also. Big tacos.
yes, I felt kind of safer there than even
Yeah,
like
because you're outside,
Yeah.
and all the restaurants really are outside too. Normally,
yeah,
so it's
exactly.
kind of
So it's
easy
like it's very much like a part of
Yeah.
it. I mean, and safer. I mean, you get what I'm saying, but it's there is this thing, this industry term that they're kind of referring to as like hygiene theater. So, and some can look at it in a negative way, but it's not fake theater. It's just more of like before in regards to like airplanes and hotels. Of course, they were cleaning things, but they kind of did it where you didn't see it. That was the whole point. Is that they didn't want you to see them cleaning. Now they're like, see me cleaning?
Yes.
This is clean for
Visual
you.
representations.
Exactly.
What are your favorite airlines right now? What do you think are the best airlines for consumers to fly?
So domestically, I'm a fan of Delta. I've just been a fan of them for a very, very long time. They've been very vocal when other people would go right, they would go left, and making different decisions that may not have been economically in their favor. Like they know that they would be losing more money doing it, but they were maybe doing the right thing for travel consumers to feel comfortable. And that I appreciate because that's kind of like the long-term game. Whereas others were like short-term game, like we just got to get like people in seats. Yeah, exactly. So that's domestically. Oh, Alaska's also really good as well too.
Alaska?
Yeah, I have always been a big fan of Alaska. But then internationally, I mean, you've got like Emirates, Singapore. Yeah. Gosh, I mean, they're knocking
nice.
out. Yeah.
So what do you think about Emirates? Because they very vocally announced that they vaccinated all of their staff. So anyone who works at Emirates is fully vaccinated. Is that, you think, going to become industry standard? They're going to do that to...
They should. I think they're all eligible. At least in California, they are for sure eligible.
All travel.
If you are, working on a flight, I would imagine that you're in the travel sector and you're eligible for vaccine.
Yeah, exactly. Like I know that and we were actually just talking about this before, I just got my vaccine just 2 days ago. So I was like, yes. But that's because of working in hotels, so, and as far as being very much like quote unquote public facing, but yeah, as far as making it, that's going to be so tricky because you will have a percentage of the population, whether some don't feel comfortable with it. And so I think what they're going to do in the US is be like, hey, it's covered. We can help fast track you, but it's up to you. I don't know if they can necessarily.
It's going to be hard. I've looked into that about whether or not you can mandate
Mandate. I don't think
vaccines, especially because, for me, I want all of my staff vaccinated because it protects the patients too, obviously.
Yeah, my whole staff is vaccinated. Yeah.
And so for both my COVID testing company and the practice, we very early, medical workers were in the first group. We pushed, but we did have some people who said that, I don't want to get the vaccine. And I don't, as far as I could tell, there's nothing I can really do other than
you can't, especially in the US, you can't mandate it. Yeah. So that's the whole thing. But Emirates, I mean,
the rules are
totally different. Rules are totally different there. Like they come up with a decision and it's like, it's happening.
Those are some of the countries also that have the most highest percentage vaccinated. Just in general, they're public.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly. They've been very vocal with that. But then it's also interesting because then you have something like Australia, for example, that they've made some very strong decisions as far as no flying in and out. I think the last that I heard that there was no international flights at least until I think October of this year.
That's crazy.
So that's huge. And Qantas was always coming out that
how are we going to get new actors then?
Yeah.
I know.
How do we have more buff 6'5" guys to be? What if there's a new Marvel? What if there's a new Marvel movie?
I know, right?
Door.
Yeah.
They're preparing now.
What do you think about? So obviously Europe. Britain in particular's tourism industry is 100%, I would say 99% based on the British monarchy, right?
Yeah.
Everyone goes to visit the castles and everyone sees Buckingham Palace and it's all about the monarchy. Do you think that the monarchy should remain purely for tourism?
Oh, wait, now we're talking about dismantling the monarchy?
Well, I think Meghan Markle pushed, we're taking it there.
Did she say that? Did she say it should be dismantled?
Oprah and her kind of went after it, though.
I mean, look, no, here...
People love the monarchy still.
Yeah, I was about to say...
It's a tourism trap.
Yeah.
Well, of course. Well, think about it, especially for the U.S. Okay, what are we... we're fascinated with things that we don't have, okay? That's why there's this celebrity culture here. That's the closest thing that we have to... a monarchy, that they are A-list celebrities. Those are the princes and princesses of our society, So it's to get close to that. So there's always going to be that fascination. It's interesting, and I actually haven't said this publicly, but I was kind of surprised at the backlash, or not the backlash, maybe the fascination as to this recent interview. Don't get me wrong. Horrible stuff was happening. But at the same time, I'm like, guys, why are you surprised? Is it, I think it's everybody's princess fantasies shattering or something. It's just it's not what it seems to be. So, but yes, to go back to what you were saying, I mean, look, that's always going to be part of the draw to the UK. Also, for Americans that maybe haven't traveled internationally, going to some place like the UK is a safe, easy place because they can travel internationally and know that everybody speaks English. So that seems to be a good it's
introduction.
The gateway to travel for those that haven't traveled.
If they show up in Italy and they can't communicate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, so people get nervous about that. It just all depends on how much they've traveled as a kid, if they did. I mean, I grew up practically on a plane, so I'm put me anywhere, I'll communicate with I don't know, the wall.
Are there places that you would suggest people not go right now?
No, I wouldn't say not go because, it's all about doing the research yourself. And then it's you make your own decisions once you're there.
Where do you suggest people do research? Are they your favorite travel sites? Where do you use?
I mean, research basically would be going to the destination. So they have their tourism board. They'll share a lot of information there. And then it's not sexy, but the government sites of those countries and those destinations, it'll be very clear. I mean, you're going to the source of it. Yeah. So when I say it's not sexy, because it's you're going to a government site, but it's that's where the resources are. And then you can also just Google and see maybe what travel influencers have been traveling there. People are very vocal. Everybody wants to share their travel stories. So information is out there. But then again, it's we've all been educated enough over the past year, we can make smart decisions.
Travel influencer seems like a good job.
That's exactly what I was about to say.
I think they really have it figured out.
That's the smartest type of influencer.
They are getting paid to go on an extravagant trip and stay in the nicest room and get everything for free.
Is that how it works?
That is, I have
I have a buddy.
been known to do this.
I know a guy. No, I have a buddy. I'm gonna have him on the show. One of my close friends, who he was like a reality TV guy on an MTV show, and then he kind of like fell into travel blogging.
You talking about drama?
No, my buddy Zach Longo.
Okay.
But anyway, I'm gonna have him on the show because I think it's really incredible. He's had some of the most incredible trips and all around
And
the
all
world.
sponsored.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Wow.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, it's funny because people ask me, they're like, where are you going on vacation next? And I'm like, I get paid to
go?
travel.
Wow.
So
Incredible.
and if it's down to me to do something, I want something super low key because it's like part of what I do is so.
The extravagance. And do for you particularly, they're doing it because you are now going to then influence your clients who can move the needle financially.
Exactly.
For these
Clients, Instagram, whatever. There's also a content creating element of it. So it's like I do create content for them. So, and then it depends on who I work with. So sometimes I'll work with companies like on a corporate level. And so it's like, cool, we're having you fly out with a camera person and you're going to make X, Y, Z for us. So yeah,
Wow.
that's a
sounds
thing.
In the game, you've been in this game, you said, for almost 20 years. You know, you look like you look like you're 20, so I don't understand that.
Thank you. No. Well, in the hospitality space.
Hospitality
so I started
space,
working I went to Georgetown in DC, and I
was at GW in DC.
Hey, right down the street. Oh my gosh. So my cousin had gone to hotel school, and he was working at the Four Seasons right there.
The Georgetown one, beautiful one.
Totally. So
Yeah,
that was
on M
right
Street.
there.
Yeah,
exactly,
yeah.
right there between our two campuses. And so I literally bump into my cousin like on the street. I knew he was there, and then we're like, "Oh, hey!" And he's like, "Talal, Sarah." I'm like, "Yeah." And then obviously it was like he was like my older brother in essence. He was working at the Four Seasons. He's like, "Why work at a restaurant down the street when you can work at the Four Seasons?
Yeah.
You can get benefits." I'm like,
Wow.
"Ooh, 19 years
like
old,
benefits?
benefits,
Yeah, benefits is
yeah." Why? Hey, he had me at benefits. What can I say?
So at that point, it was purely the influence of your family member who got you into the hotel concept.
Yeah, and I started working at the Four Seasons at 19, and it was everything, and that was so interesting because I was just working like in the lobby bar, and
But that hotel specifically has so many
lot of,
high
I would
influential
imagine,
politicians.
I had to tell Arnold
presidents of
Schwarzenegger
countries.
he couldn't smoke his cigar there.
Oh my
And
god.
they were so funny because it's like he starts smoking. They're like, oh, he can't smoke here. And I'm like, I'll tell him. They're like, and I'm like, dude, what? Like, I was like 19. I'm like, he can't smoke a cigar here. Plus, it's going to give me a headache. So I'm like,
Wow.
I'm sorry, like you can't smoke here. And he was like, oh, okay, no problem.
Oh,
Oh,
he
he
was-
did. He wasn't mad.
course.
No, he's a nice
No,
guy. He's
who's
a nice
going to turn a
guy.
19-year-old girl down?
Yeah, back then he wasn't the governor.
He
yet.
wasn't even
He
a
probably
governor.
wasn't a
Yeah.
guy. He was probably making his contacts there.
Probably. So
Yeah, but that hotel was legendary.
Oh,
Lots
totally.
of politicians.
Totally. And then when I moved out
That's
to Los
cool.
Angeles, I had more of that background. And so how I became a concierge is I actually had applied at the L'Hermitage right down the street.
Right.
And I was like, oh, maybe, some cocktail server or something like that. And they're like, we think you'd make a great concierge. And I'm like, I just moved to LA. Like, I know how to get from my house to here. And they're like, yeah, you can do this. And I'm like, I'm good with maps. And so actually when I moved, which is horrible to say, but when I moved here, then I ended up literally at night, I would drive up and down the streets of Beverly Hills, everything.
Just learning the city.
learning everything and doing it when there
Wow.
wasn't traffic. And then going into restaurants and stuff.
This is all the secret about people who are good at their jobs.
Yeah, they
this is
work
the
hard.
stuff. Yeah, you
Yeah.
work hard.
And
Like, you're
care.
and you care. Yes.
Yeah. And you do, and it's kind of that like off hour, the work that you do off hours.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay. And when I started as a concierge, I was like 21, 22. Like I couldn't afford at that time to like go to all of the restaurants in Beverly Hills. So I would just go in and like, you have a fairly good read on a place. And so at that point I would just kind of like look around and be like, okay, cool, I get it. And it's like you understand menus and stuff. And then you kind of like,
Right.
you learn as you go. And now,
Yeah, very cool job.
now we know. So
Very cool job. I mean, you get to literally impact some of the biggest decisions for a lot of people's way they spend their time, which is the most valuable thing we do.
It's been kind of cool. It's funny. I was talking with somebody that the other day. They were like, "Oh, you're not just like a travel expert or influencer, but it's like it's also this lifestyle influencer and that like you help people make decisions, whether it is like where to go, where they should eat, where they should spend some of their time. And I'm like, oh wow, that's kind of a big.
What are your favorite restaurants in LA right now?
Oh gosh, right now. Okay, that's so tricky.
You gotta be careful because his brother owns a bunch of them.
Oh no, I'm well aware.
They just opened a new one. I'll throw it out there.
So I have not been there yet.
Santolina, the roof of the Beverly Hilton.
Very cool combo.
The view during the day is like spectacular.
Wow.
So it's like Mediterranean Israeli food. So it's like fresh stuff during the brunch is great. I went for dinner too, and lights at night. You can't quite get the view of the hills during the night because they're not lit up as much, you know? So during the day, it's spectacular. But night's cool too.
Is it similar to the view at the Waldorf rooftop?
Basically the same.
Okay, cool. So great view. Yeah. Amazing view.
It's an incredible view. Yes, I saw that and I'm like super excited.
And it's rooftop and they tented it, but they created this really cool ceiling. You have to see it, but basically you cannot see the tent because they created this structure of like lighting above you. So you don't even realize that you're actually outdoors.
Wow.
It's cool.
And it's so cool because that hotel's so iconic because that's the Golden Globes hotel.
Oh my gosh.
They do the Golden Globes every year.
That was my high school prom.
At the Beverly Hilton.
Really? Oh my God.
Beverly High.
Is it kind of weird every time you go back in there?
Yeah,
and
when
you
I walk in there, I'm like, I went to the prom there.
Jeff, you're not privileged at all.
No,
but I mean, come on, like, think about it. You go back and like you walk in that auditorium and you're like, oh my gosh, I remember when I was like 17 here.
That's crazy.
That's trippy.
The same place they do the Golden Globes.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. That's cool. We're friendly with the family that owns the hotel.
Very
which is
cool.
awesome. Yeah. So, I mean, it's an interesting time because there's a lot of places that are just like reopening, you know. So, and then it's like, you kind of have like your favorites.
What are your go-tos?
My go-tos. So I actually like kind of like the standards, like the Koi's, the Spagos, the Mastros, like those are. I mean, those are kind of like classic.
Yeah.
But then always up to try like a new place as well too. And certainly, your brother owns a lot of awesome places that I'm always a fan of.
All right, well, we're gonna play a little game now.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about what are some of the most common medical stories of the week, and we're going to ask you to let us know which ones you think are true or false.
Okay, I love this.
All right, so you're going to tell us true or false. We're going to go over some of the most common medical stories right now of the week. So this one is a viral trend on TikTok saying that rice water is good for hair growth. True or false?
False.
False? What do you think?
I haven't heard about this.
I haven't either, but
it's true. So
it is true. How.
So there's this
That's
whole trend.
truly a trend, or it's truly good for hair loss?
Both. So they're saying that it's truly a trend. They're doing this all over TikTok right now.
That I believe.
That I believe for sure.
But the studies are showing that vitamins, minerals, and the hormones that are found in rice water can actually make your hair smoother, fuller, less knotty, and longer. In theory, it's the vitamin B and the vitamin E that can defend against antioxidation and aging of the hair.
When are we going to be putting stem cells and getting people's hair to grow?
That's actually a really good question.
Yeah,
and people are still talking about that. Like right now, there's actually a study that came out from Japan this week, actually, ironically, they said that about a stem cell breakthrough bringing baldness cure one step closer. So they're identifying the characteristics of the stem cells in the skin that's responsible for hair regeneration and identifying the optimal ingredients to generate this continued follicle growth in the hair.
You're going to be curing people's hair in 10 years. You know that.
Well, the Japanese scientists,
once they figure out the stem
will
cells.
give us the
but
techniques.
once it's figured out.
Yes, absolutely.
Because it's such a huge
marketing
need.
problem. Yeah,
it's a big problem that doesn't have a great. I mean, there are things that help.
Yeah,
but there's
there's no one who's bald who prefers to be bald.
Yeah,
there's nobody.
More than you always want
Everyone
more.
wants more hair. I mean, The Rock is probably one of the best looking, most successful humans in the world, and he wishes he has hair. So if he does, everyone does. It's just not a chance.
Oh, totally.
All right, let's try another one. So, Kris Jenner, mother of a few famous people.
Yeah, a few.
Is rumored to be starting a skincare line to compete with her own daughter.
That sounds I would say true.
I would say true also.
It's true.
I wouldn't say, but I think the key is I would say it's probably not competing.
Yeah.
Different demographic.
Yeah, different demographic. Yeah, that's right.
She just realized there are 4 people who are not buying the Kylie one. So
No,
she needed
it's
to
actually really
target
smart.
those
She's
people.
probably going to be basically
Everything
appeal.
she does is smart.
Of course, she's going to appeal to
She
all the
even got her
parents.
husband to switch sexes for good TV.
Oh my!
I hope it was not for TV. I don't think it was.
I don't think it was for TV either.
I don't think it was. This one is a good viral one that you may both of you saw. A Uber passenger violently attacked and coughed on a driver and is being arrested for it. True or false?
Oh, being arrested for it? True.
Yeah.
I think it's true. It's like
true.
a hate crime, right?
Yeah,
because they were yelling some.
Yeah, slurs at him, and someone used mace at him.
Oh, wow.
Basically, he was insisting they wear their mask.
Yeah, of course.
And at some point, they got angry about wearing the masks, and it sounds like it turns into a physical altercation with these girls kind of abusing physically and pulling the mask off his face. And
Where did
spraying
this
mace.
take place?
It's in San Francisco. I think, right?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, in California. Yeah.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Well, there we go.
And the Instagram model, she's like an Instagram lingerie model kind of thing. And she's been posting her videos showing her response to it and saying that their defense was that he was trying to drop them. He wanted to end the ride because of the altercation, and they refused to get out of the car in an unknown area. So they felt like they were unsafe to get out of a car in an unknown area. But he supposedly was trying to drop them off at a gas station. So it comes down to the ethics of Uber driver. Like, do they have a responsibility, or can they just end the ride whenever they want?
But the person wasn't wearing a mask.
Yeah, so it's
that is required to be in the
Uber.
In Uber,
in Uber and Lyft.
They're allowed to
I
have
say
that
they
requirement.
are the one who it's their fault.
Yeah.
They could have just put the mask back on.
Oh,
He wouldn't have
100%.
been dropping
Right.
them off.
Well, and
Right.
also it's like if you are a Instagram model, like you do have some sort of like people are watching what you're doing. So
And a
Literally.
plastic surgeon appeared in virtual traffic court while operating. True or false?
what? I'm just gonna say true because it's so ridiculous.
I saw that. That was insane. So the judge is starting to talk, and then they go to the
the
defendant or whatever.
Yeah, defendant. Yeah,
And he's literally not only is he in the operating room, he's operating.
scrubbed in. Yeah.
And he's talking to the judge while he's
What
operating.
did he just literally set up like his like?
No, someone was holding a phone to him, and he's like looking at the thing and operating.
Yeah. I will
And
say,
the judge stopped it.
yeah, the judge stopped the court and said, "Listen, we need to do this."
Oh,
when
I
you're
was
not
going to say, don't tell me
participating."
he stopped the operation because he couldn't do that.
No, the judge stopped the case.
The doctor, I believe, said that there was another doctor scrubbed in who was actually the one physically operating.
Yeah, he was
And
just
so
in the OR
He was
helping.
just in the OR.
Yeah, but it's bad optics. But as a surgeon, I can tell you that's just
Yeah,
bad
and it's
optics.
like could be distracting the other doctor.
You just
and
shouldn't be
you
doing that. Yeah, he should have scrubbed out, stood
It's
out in the
not as
hallway.
bad as the guy who was operating on the hoverboard or whatever.
Oh,
last year.
yeah. Doing
That
like
was
gimmicky
worse.
stuff.
Yeah, he was like filming Instagram videos of him on
operating
a hoverboard.
on a hoverboard.
So
yeah.
there's filming, there's a hoverboard, all
Yeah.
of this happening. Wow.
While the patient's asleep. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, great. It's
Good times.
Really good times.
wow. Can you imagine if you are that patient and you
I
wake up?
know.
You
You're
stopped
like-
doing that in your office, right? The hoverboard thing.
Yeah, we got rid of the hoverboard.
That was totally 2019.
Yeah. There's a lot of that social media plastic surgery type stuff.
Yeah.
There, a few years ago, if you guys remember, there's a doctor in Atlanta who got her license taken away because she used to do like these funny dance moves and stuff like while she was operating. And she would videotape herself doing liposuction on patients while she was dancing. They'd play like rap music in the background, and it was like a party while she was operating. And
Yeah,
they made like
yeah.
a whole thing. But then she had a few bad outcomes in a row. And so then the problem is they linked those bad outcomes to her behavior,
Right.
which she was openly posting repetitively,
Right.
and they just decided that she's not safe for patient care, and they took away her license.
No.
There's a lot of weird stuff that happens.
lot of
in
weird
operating.
stuff.
Well, it's interesting because it's like
it's a hidden black box. No one knows. You go to sleep, and then you just come out the other side. And
Well,
you're awake.
you really need ethical doctors around you.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, I remember in med school, just the surgeons being like just mean to the nurses and the anesthesiologists, which probably doesn't fly as well anymore.
not anymore. No, not when
No.
your wife is your anesthesiologist like
Well,
me.
for you, that's
yeah.
oh
Yeah, it does not fly.
that does not fly. No.
Also, it's different. Like
The
my
culture,
operating room.
I think that's one of those cultural things that
Yeah.
will change now.
Totally. Well, my operating, it's pitch black. No one talks. No one's allowed to speak unless it's about patient care. Of
course.
And it's complete just
Do you listen
focus
to
and
like
dedication.
relaxing music or
No
something?
music allowed.
No music.
Complete
No.
silence. No one
Really?
talks. We just are focused.
Look at me,
I've
no,
heard-
like I'm in the room.
Well,
Like, no.
I've heard surgeons say that just music, whether it's classical music, whether it's, whatever it is to them gets them like in the zone focus wise, because they can't hear distractions of people talking or anything.
Yeah.
So I get that.
In hospitals, I think that's more likely because the doctors, surgeons in hospitals don't have any control. Knowing and having done both.
That's
versus me in a surgery center, especially one that you own,
Yeah.
Everyone works for me.
Right.
So you have complete control over
100%.
the atmosphere.
Right.
Versus in the hospital, the nurses can argue that, we're talking about other things that are part of our job.
Right.
And the surgeon won't be able to say, well, it doesn't help this patient. It becomes trickier.
Right.
So I'm able to control a lot more. I like to say I have home court advantage every day. Because I get asked once in a while to operate at other surgery centers because patients want joint things. Like if I'm doing a nose and someone wants their breast done and they want a joint case, but I refuse to go to other surgery centers.
Oh,
It has
and
to
then
be
you
at
just make
home
them come
turf.
over.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the other
Really?
surgeons can come to mine, but I
Interesting.
won't go to theirs.
Interesting.
Yeah, I just like
I've
home
never
court
even
advantage.
thought about that.
Yeah.
So people want to get everything done at once. I guess that makes
course.
sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so we do joint
recover.
cases. So I have a few
Really?
colleagues who will come over and do breast surgeries that are really well and respected and really great surgeons, but I won't go there just because I want my home
Yeah.
court advantage.
Interesting.
It's like if LeBron got to play the Lakers stadium every night rather than having to travel. Of course, he would never
Exactly like that. Exactly like that.
Right.
That's what surgeons think of themselves.
Oh, yeah, of course. Fair enough. Look.
Well, thank you so much. This is it's so great and insightful, and it's exciting. This episode's exciting because people are going to start to
I'm ready
travel
to
again.
travel.
Yeah,
I'm ready
me
to
too.
go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the whole thing is like everybody gets excited to talk about travel. So it's a good thing to talk about, especially after the past year of what we've been through.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
with on so many different levels.
And I'm happy about this episode because now I have a new goal in life, and it's to become a travel blogger.
To become
perfect.
a traveler, paid
Perfect.
travel blogger. Maybe we'll sponsor it by Modern Prescription. The
I
first
can't wait
episode.
to see your travel blog through the French wine country.
Oh, maybe, I'm gonna see if you can help me set something up.
Done. I got some contacts there. We can make this happen.
I love it.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on.
Thank
Cool,
you so
thanks
much.
for having
Ask
me.
a Concierge is your Instagram handle,
Yeah.
and that's your registered trademarked tagline
Yes,
and
it
business
is.
name.
It's, Ask a Concierge. And then for more information, my website's askaconcierge.tv.
There you
Couldn't
go.
be easier.
I know.
Well, thank you
Thanks
so
for
much for
coming
coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, that was super fun. Sarah is super smart.
Super helpful.
Great, insightful.
And,
Yeah. I mean, I'm excited to travel.
I'm excited to watch you travel on your travel blog.
Yeah, I think you would be a better travel influencer though, because you do more of the outdoorsy stuff.
Yeah.
You do the shirtless pics.
But I've actually never posted a shirtless pic. But I don't think outdoorsy is as good for travel blog because there's no financial incentive. It's got to be like a big hotel
Corporate,
or
yeah.
corporate-y.
True, the mountains won't pay you. They won't sponsor
I
you.
wish the mountains would pay me, but they don't.
They're not
But
good.
if there was a nice resort, and resorts aren't at least in California, which is kind of weird. There isn't like a fancy, I wish like Yosemite had a fancy 5-star hotel.
Yeah, that would do well.
But they don't. Big Sur has a couple beautiful
Let's talk to Sarah.
properties.
Maybe we start a hotel.
I think we need another episode just because I want to ask a more specific hotel questions. But in any case, thank you guys for listening.
Yes, continue to like,
share the
subscribe.
episode, and if you also are a traveler, just ask Sarah where to go, and she'd be happy to help you.
Ask a concierge.
Or ask me, and I'll give you some recs.
Thanks for listening.